Hi, I'm attorney Ben Schwartz. Today I have a special guest, Stephen Grossinger. Dr. Grossinger is a neurologist, he's a physician and medical doctor, and he sees a lot of my clients in auto accident and workers' comp cases. A lot of the clients in my law firm, other attorneys' clients as well in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and throughout the state of Delaware. I asked Dr. Grossinger to come on and do a video with us today because I want to talk about something that happened to me a number of years ago. And you know the story, Steve. Essentially, I was in a car accident. I was on I-95, and another driver who was driving a pickup truck and going way too fast, way over the speed limit, crashed into the back of my car. And I got my car under control. There were no major lasting injuries, but one of the things that I found really strange was that after I got the car pulled over, I couldn't find my cell phone. The police officer handed me his cell phone so that I could call someone to let them know what happened, and I just couldn't remember phone numbers. The memory just wasn't there. And I want to ask you, what's your take on that, Steve?
Well, when there's been a situation where there can be a head injury or concussion, there can be problems that arise right at the time of impact. In your circumstance, you're in a car, you're by yourself. It can be difficult to know the nature of the trauma. You were hit forcefully from behind. A big vehicle hit another vehicle, one that was traveling at a high speed. So there are forces involved. Sometimes one might hit their head on the steering wheel or the windshield, and it's pretty clear. Other situations, our head gets driven back into even a nicely padded headrest.
Right.
Still, we have to recall that our brain is floating in cerebrospinal fluid, basically in fluid within our skull. The skull is like a hard box. The brain is soft and it's floating. And when there's a sudden change, either being hit at a great force or suddenly stopping, the brain may still be really driven into the hard aspect of the skull. When you mention, that moment there, which there ended up being an evaluation of your ability to concentrate by the police officer handing you the phone and you trying on the spot to pick up a number, remember a phone number. It makes me also think of on an athletic field, a high school student, a football player has a concussive episode, and there has been more attention given to the on the spot assessment. And bottom line is, if you're not necessarily stressed, it might have been a circumstance where there wasn't a police officer there and giving you a task that required you to have concentration and memory, and you might have carried on and gone about your regular routine and maybe not be clear whether there could have been a concussion. The classic presentation of a concussion is when the head is struck, whether being hit by something like a baseball bat or in a trauma like a car accident where there's a sudden change, whether it being hit abruptly or stopping abruptly. There may be loss of consciousness. Someone passes out. If someone were in a car with you and they saw that you looked like you were asleep for a period of time and then awoke, then it's pretty clear that there's a concussion. But there clearly is a gray zone where there is not direct head contact. There is not loss of consciousness, but there may be problems such as headache, dizzy feeling, being just a little foggy and out of sorts, having problems with memory and concentration, being dizzy, having a change in vision. There can be even just like an emotional change where your family members realize that your fuse is shorter, you're irritable. These are things, when there's been a concussion, it means that a trauma has affected the brain in such a way that it is not functioning properly. So after you've had an accident, and if you do develop headaches, which are different than what you've had, you find that your ability to think clearly, you try to text your family member and you realize that it's Today we don't remember phone numbers as we were forced to when we were younger, but still there are various tasks that we need to do. Trying to compose an email or a text, you might find, wow, it's hard to put the words together. Talking, it may be hard to find the words. So after a traumatic incident, you want to be mindful. Has there been a change? Have you developed headache? Do you feel like you're off balance? Is it hard to focus your vision? Do you feel like has your sleep been thrown out of whack? Often in a circumstance like this, there's pain in other parts of your body that can be somewhat of a distraction. Of course, the neck is definitely vulnerable. Just the anatomy of having our weight, the weight of our head, about 3 pounds on our neck, and then with there being a sudden force, you can get the whiplash, the classic whiplash type effect. But again, I bring up that you may be suffering from pain in your neck, your back, your arms or legs, on top of the head-related symptoms, headache, trouble with concentration and memory. So if you find that you have had an accident and you have some of these problems, you do want to bring it to medical attention. I think after an accident, naturally no one expects it coming, and I think you want to hope to just get back to normal, get back to your job, get back home. If you're bruised or bleeding, it's pretty clear that you want to head for medical attention. But I think if you have a question, do you lose track of time? I mean, is it hard to remember where you're coming from or where you were going to? Does someone on the scene point out to you that things were happening that you don't have a recollection for? Do you suddenly become aware and realize that there's an ambulance there already, so the time has transpired? I had a patient recently who was working in a plant and was struck in the head and went to the emergency room soon after, and he said he did not believe that he had loss of consciousness. As it turned out, they had video of the incident, and he was out cold for more than a minute. So, you don't know what you don't know, and it's better safe than sorry. In many situations after this, you may be fine, just letting some time go. In a week or two, symptoms may resolve, but there are circumstances where there can be persistent issues. I mean, in a situation of an accident, that's no fault of your own. As a medical provider, we want to be sure that we're covering all bases medically, not missing anything. But we do want to document the extent of injury. Is it necessary to do further testing? When the head has been hit significantly in such an accident like we've discussed, there is some potential for bleeding or bruising within the brain that may require testing at a hospital or emergency room, a CAT scan or MRI, to be certain that there's not more involved than there appears to be. And it may be a circumstance where it seems safest the night of, or the same day of the accident, to go directly there. It's not uncommon to wake up the next morning and realize, you thought you were okay, but you may have a bad headache or other aching. I think when in doubt, it's best to at least get some kind of screening, whether it be today urgent care, your primary care physician, emergency rooms. You don't want to overlook it. I mean, clearly, if you're not able to really function properly, you notice it's hard to feel confident behind the wheel, or again, doing the things we do every day, like typing a text or writing an email, reading the newspaper, watching TV. Do you have trouble keeping track of things? Does your spouse or family member say they told you something that you forget soon after? So there are various signs that I think just point to the necessity to just get some further assessment. When in doubt, let your family doctor or maybe a family member just say you realize you're not quite yourself, and maybe put the onus on a spouse or friend to be sure that you get the wheels turning to proper assessment, because there are some circumstances where one may look okay but really be out of sorts.
That's excellent information. Again, I'm Ben Schwartz. This is Dr. Stephen Grossinger, And we're signing off. If you have questions about concussion, please get in contact with us. We'll get you hooked up with Dr. Grossinger and get you all better. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.